Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to English with Me, the podcast where real conversations teach you real English.
And I'm Rebecca. Oh my goodness, I have been so excited for this episode, like genuinely. I barely slept last night thinking about all the things I want to say.
That is honestly a little concerning, Rebecca. But I get it, because today's topic is one that everyone, and I mean everyone, has an opinion on. We are talking about technology and the future.
Yes, and if you were with us last episode, when Mike and I talked about protecting the environment, then you might remember we teased this one at the very end. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go back and check it out first. Trust me, it sets the perfect stage for what we're about to discuss today.
Absolutely. Because technology and the environment, they are deeply, deeply connected. But we'll get to that. First, a warm welcome to all our listeners, wherever you are in the world. Whether you're commuting, cooking dinner, or lying in bed avoiding your alarm clock, we are so glad you're here.
No judgment on the alarm clock avoiders. We see you. Now, stick with us all the way to the end, because today we have a very special role play section that you do not want to miss. Mike and I are going to act out a real conversation so you can practice your own English speaking skills.
That's right. So stay tuned. But first, let's talk tech.
Mike, I want to start with a question that I think gets right to the heart of it. When you hear the word technology, what feeling does it give you? Excitement? Fear? Something in between?
Honestly, both, at the same time. Which I know sounds contradictory, meaning it seems like those two feelings can't coexist. But I genuinely feel a kind of wonder and nervousness simultaneously whenever I think about where technology is heading.
Oh, I completely understand that. I think most people feel that way whether they admit it or not. Technology moves so fast. Like, think about this. The smartphone in your pocket right now is more powerful than the computers NASA used to send humans to the moon in 1969.
When you put it like that, it really hits differently, doesn't it? And yet we use our phones mostly to watch cat videos and argue with strangers on the internet. No offense to anyone.
No offense, but also completely accurate. But okay, in all seriousness, technology has transformed, meaning fundamentally changed, almost every aspect of human life: communication, medicine, education, transportation, entertainment.
And the environment, which, as we said, is a big thread running through today's conversation. And listeners, as always, we're going to weave in key English vocabulary throughout our chat, so pay close attention. You'll be amazed how many new words and expressions you pick up just by listening.
And don't worry if something goes too fast. You can always pause and rewind. That's the beauty of a podcast. Now, let's get into it.
So I think before we go deep into AI and robots and all that exciting stuff, it's worth stepping back and asking, what exactly is technology? Because the word is much bigger than most people realize.
Oh, this is a great point. What's your definition?
Well, strictly speaking, and strictly speaking is a great phrase meaning to be precise, technology is any tool, system, or method that humans create to solve problems or achieve goals. So, a wheel, that's technology. Fire, technology. Writing, also technology.
Oh, wow, you're right. We tend to think of technology as screens and circuits, meaning electronic components. But really, humans have been technological creatures since the Stone Age.
Exactly. And that framing being the way we choose to look at something, actually gives me hope because it means we have always found a way to innovate. To innovate means to create new solutions, to do things in a new or better way.
And every era of human history has had its own technological revolution. A rapid, sweeping, meaning wide-ranging and significant change driven by new inventions. The agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, the digital revolution.
And now, the AI revolution, which might honestly be the biggest one yet.
That's both thrilling and terrifying. Shall we talk about AI?
Oh, let's absolutely talk about AI.
Okay, artificial intelligence. AI, it's everywhere right now, in the news, in our apps, in our workplaces. So let's break it down properly. Mike, how would you explain AI to someone who knows absolutely nothing about it?
All right, so imagine you're teaching a very young child to recognize a cat. You show them hundreds of pictures of cats, and eventually, after seeing enough examples, they just know what a cat looks like without anyone telling them. AI works in a similar way. You feed a computer system massive, meaning enormous, amounts of data, and it learns to recognize patterns, make decisions, and even generate new content, all by itself.
And the term for that learning process is machine learning, right? Machine learning is a subset, meaning a smaller category within a larger one, of AI, where the system learns from data rather than being explicitly programmed with every rule.
Exactly. And then there's deep learning, which is an even more advanced form of machine learning that mimics, meaning it tries to replicate or imitate the structure of the human brain using layers of interconnected nodes called neural networks.
Neural networks. Doesn't that sound like science fiction? But it's real, it's happening right now. And the results are honestly staggering. Staggering means shocking, almost hard to believe.
Staggering is the right word. We now have AI systems that can write essays, compose music, design buildings, diagnose, meaning, identify, and analyze medical conditions sometimes better than human doctors can.
Wait, really? Better than human doctors?
In some specific areas, yes. For example, AI systems trained on thousands of medical scans can detect certain types of cancer at an earlier stage than the human eye can spot, which is extraordinary, isn't it?
That's actually beautiful. When you hear something like that, it really reminds you of the enormous potential, meaning the possibility for great things that technology holds, like lives being saved because of an algorithm.
Right. And I think that's important to hold on to, especially when all the headlines focus on the scary aspects of AI, because there's a lot of fear out there, and some of it is legitimate, meaning it's reasonable and well founded. But there's also incredible life saving potential that we shouldn't overlook. Overlook means to fail to notice or give attention to something.
But we should talk about those concerns too, right? Because staying with us, listeners, this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to talk about the ethical questions around AI. And ethics, meaning the study of what's right and wrong, is one of the most important conversations happening in the world right now.
So, Rebecca, let me ask you directly, what's your biggest concern about AI and technology right now?
Honestly, automation. The idea that AI and robots will replace, meaning take over the jobs of human workers on a massive scale. And I know that's not a new fear. People worried about machines taking jobs during the Industrial Revolution too. But this time feels
Why different?
because before, machines replaced physical labor, factory work, manual tasks. But AI is now moving into cognitive work, cognitive meaning related to thinking and mental processes. It can write, analyze, create, strategize, jobs that we always thought required human intelligence.
And that raises a profound question, profound meaning deep, significant, not easily answered, about the future of work. What will people do if AI can do most cognitive tasks more efficiently?
Exactly, and there's a term for this: structural unemployment. When technological change makes entire categories of jobs obsolete. Obsolete means no longer useful or relevant because something better has come along.
But here's the counterargument, and counterargument means the opposing point of view. Some economists believe that while technology destroys some jobs, it always creates new ones. Every industrial revolution in history has ultimately, meaning in the end, after all is said and done, led to more jobs, not fewer.
That's hopeful. But I think the key question is, how quickly does the transition happen? And who supports the people whose jobs disappear in the meantime?
That's the crux of it. Crux meaning the most important or decisive point. It's not just about whether technology creates new opportunities, it's about whether the benefits are distributed, meaning shared fairly, or whether only a small elite, meaning a privileged few, end up gaining while everyone else gets left behind.
And that, I think, is one of the defining challenges of the next few decades. How do we make sure that technological progress leads to greater equality, meaning fairness and justice for everyone, rather than wider inequality?
It's such a critical question, and there are no easy answers. But the fact that we're asking it, that people, governments, researchers are grappling with, meaning seriously wrestling with, these questions, that itself is a form of progress.
I like that. Progress in the conversation, not just in the code.
Not just in the code, love that. But actually, before we move on, there's something I want to raise that I think often gets overlooked in tech conversations, and it ties directly back to our environment episode.
Oh, what's that?
The environmental cost of AI itself. Because here's the thing, people talk about AI as this clean, invisible digital force, but it's not invisible at all. Every time you send a prompt to an AI, every time a model runs, it requires enormous computing power. And that computing power runs on electricity, a lot of electricity, inside massive buildings called data centers.
Data centers. And we're talking about buildings the size of warehouses, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, consuming, meaning using up, as much electricity as entire cities.
Exactly. Some researchers estimate that training a single large AI model can generate as much carbon dioxide as 5 cars over their entire lifetimes. And with AI usage exploding, meaning growing at a dramatic, almost uncontrollable rate globally, that carbon footprint, meaning the total amount of greenhouse gases produced, is getting bigger every year.
And it's not just the electricity, is it? There's also the hardware side. The chips, the processors that power AI systems are incredibly resource intensive to manufacture. Manufacturing meaning to produce on a large industrial scale. They require rare earth minerals, minerals that are mined, often in ways that cause serious environmental damage.
Right. And then there's the issue of e-waste, electronic waste. As AI hardware becomes outdated, meaning no longer powerful enough, it gets replaced. And those old chips, servers, and components often end up in landfills, sometimes in developing countries, leaching, meaning slowly releasing toxic chemicals into the soil and water.
So, we have this incredible technology that could help us solve the climate crisis, and yet the technology itself is contributing to the very problem it's supposed to fix. That's a real tension. Tension meaning a conflict between two opposing forces.
It is. And acknowledging that tension, rather than ignoring it, is really important. The good news is that there are serious efforts to make AI more energy efficient, to power data centers with renewable energy, and to design chips that do more with less, but we're not there yet. And until we are, it's worth being conscious, meaning aware and thoughtful, about how and how much we use AI.
That's such a responsible point, and it connects beautifully to what we discussed last episode: individual choices and environmental responsibility. Even with technology, we have to think about the consequences, the results or effects of our actions.
Absolutely. Okay, with that honest note in mind, let's look at the flip side. Because there are also so many ways that technology, when developed thoughtfully, is doing genuinely brilliant things for our planet. I think our listeners are really going to want to hear this next part.
Oh, yes. This is actually my favorite part of the whole conversation. Let's talk about green technology.
So, green technology, also called clean tech or sustainable technology, refers to innovations designed to reduce environmental impact and help us live more sustainably. And the progress here in just the last decade has been absolutely remarkable.
Remarkable is the right word. Okay, so let's talk about renewable energy first because this is such a good news story. Solar power, energy generated from sunlight, has become so much cheaper and more efficient, meaning it works better while using fewer resources, that it is now, in many parts of the world, the cheapest form of electricity ever produced in human history.
Ever. in all of human history. When you hear that stat, you realize this is not just incremental progress, incremental meaning small, step-by-step improvement. This is a genuine breakthrough. A breakthrough is a sudden, dramatic development that overcomes a major obstacle.
And wind energy, too. Offshore wind farms, large clusters of turbines placed out at sea, are now powerful enough to supply electricity to millions of homes. Countries like Denmark are producing more wind energy than they actually need, and exporting, meaning selling to other countries the surplus. Surplus means extra, more than what's required.
And then there are electric vehicles, EVs, which connects beautifully to what we discussed last episode about air pollution and fossil fuels. The shift to electric transportation is happening faster than most experts predicted. Predicted means forecast, expected.
And AI is making all of this smarter, like smart grids, electricity distribution networks that use AI to optimize, meaning get the best possible performance from energy flow. AI can predict when demand will be high, reroute power automatically, reduce waste.
It's like the energy system becomes alive almost, responsive, adaptive. And adapting to change is exactly what we need as we face the challenges of climate change.
There's also something really exciting happening with carbon capture technology. We mentioned this briefly last episode. It's the process of removing carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere. And now, with AI powered systems, these processes are becoming far more efficient and scalable. Scalable means able to grow or expand to handle a larger task.
So, to tie this back to our environmental conversation, when people ask, can technology save the environment? I think the honest answer is, it can be a huge part of the solution. Not the only part. Individual behavior and policy still matter enormously, but technology is a powerful ally. Ally means a partner or helper.
Absolutely, and I think that's such an important message for our listeners. Hope is not naive. Naive means overly simple or lacking experience if it's backed by evidence. And the evidence here is genuinely encouraging.
Okay, but before we move to our role play, which I promise is coming soon, listeners, hang in there. I want to touch on one more area of technology that I think is going to shape all of our futures in a very personal way.
Oh, yes. Are you going to say what I think you're going to say?
If you're thinking biotechnology, then yes.
Yes, let's go.
So biotechnology, bio meaning life, technology meaning tools and systems, is the use of biological processes, organisms, or systems to develop new technologies. And it is arguably meaning you can make a strong argument that it is the most consequential frontier of science right now. Consequential means having major far-reaching effects.
And the most mind bending. So, where do we even start? CRISPR?
CRISPR. Let's go. Now, CRISPR is actually an acronym, meaning a word formed from the first letters of a longer phrase. It stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats, which is a lot of words. Don't worry about memorizing that. What matters is what it does. CRISPR is a gene editing technology. Gene editing means we can actually go into the DNA, the genetic blueprint of a living organism, and make precise changes. Add a gene here. Remove a mutation. A mutation is an error or change in the genetic code. There. Like editing a document. But the document is the code of life.
When you explain it like that, it sounds almost unbelievably powerful. And it is. Scientists are already using CRISPR to develop treatments and potentially cures for diseases like sickle cell anemia, certain cancers, and genetic disorders that have caused suffering for generations.
For generations. We're talking about diseases that have been part of human experience forever, possibly being eliminated within our lifetime. Eliminated means completely removed, wiped out.
It's extraordinary. And it raises again those deep ethical questions, doesn't it? Because if we can edit genes in a lab to cure disease, could we also edit them to enhance, meaning improve beyond the normal human abilities? Intelligence, strength, lifespan.
And that, listeners, is where biotechnology enters the realm of what philosophers call transhumanism. Transhumanism is the belief that technology can and should be used to enhance and transcend, meaning go beyond the limits of normal human biology.
And this is where I personally feel very conflicted. Conflicted meaning torn between different feelings or opinions. On one hand, living longer, healthier lives sounds wonderful. On the other hand, if only wealthy people can access these technologies, we could end up with a world of biological inequality that makes today's gap between rich and poor look tiny by comparison.
That's a real and serious concern. And it's why governance, meaning the systems and rules by which things are managed and regulated of these technologies, is so critical. Someone needs to make sure this power is used responsibly and equitably. Equitably means fairly, with everyone getting a just share.
And I think there's a deeper question underneath all of this, Mike. Should there be a limit, a boundary on how far we push biotechnology? I mean, curing diseases feels obviously right, but designing babies with specific traits, editing out things that make us human, even the imperfections.
That's where I think we genuinely don't have the answers yet, and maybe that's okay. Maybe the right response to standing at the edge of something this profound, this significant, is not to rush forward, but to proceed with humility. Humility meaning an awareness of our own limitations and the possibility that we could be wrong.
Proceed with humility. I really like that phrase, because science and technology move fast. But wisdom? Wisdom tends to move a lot slower. And the gap between those two speeds is exactly where things can go wrong.
It comes back to what we've been saying throughout this whole conversation, doesn't it? Technology itself is neither good nor bad, it's a powerful tool. And like any powerful tool, a scalpel, say, or fire, what matters most is the judgment, the care, and the values of the person holding it.
Technology is a mirror. It reflects our values back at us. Use it wisely, and it shows us at our best. Use it carelessly, and it shows us something else entirely.
That is a perfect way to put it, Rebecca. I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time. Okay, are you ready for the moment our listeners have been waiting for?
That's genuinely beautiful and a little humbling. Okay, are you ready for the moment our listeners have been waiting for?
I am absolutely ready. Listeners, we told you there was a special surprise in this episode. Well, here it is. Rebecca and I are going to do a role play. We'll act out a real conversation you might have about technology, and you can use it to practice your own speaking. Just pause after our lines and repeat, or try to respond in your own words. Ready, Rebecca?
Let's do it.
Okay, listeners, here's the scene. You've just started a new job at a company. It's your first week. Your colleague, let's call her Rebecca, comes over to your desk to chat. Listen carefully to the natural phrases we use. Try to repeat after us, or even better, pause and come up with your own responses.
Hey, how are you settling in? First week going okay?
Yeah, pretty well, thanks. Still getting used to all the new software, to be honest. There are so many tools here I've never seen before.
Oh, tell me about it. When I started, I was completely overwhelmed. But you get used to it. Have you tried the AI assistant yet? It's been a total game changer for me.
I've seen it but haven't really explored it yet. What do you mainly use it for?
Everything, writing emails, summarizing long reports, brainstorming ideas. Honestly, it saves me like 2 hours a day. I was skeptical, meaning doubtful at first, but now I can't imagine working without it.
That's interesting. I'm a bit on the fence about AI tools, to be honest. I worry that if we rely on them too much, we might lose some of our own skills. You know what I mean?
I totally see your point, and I think that's a healthy attitude, actually. The way I see it, it's about using AI as a support, not a replacement. I still do the thinking. The AI just speeds things up.
That's a good way to look at it. Maybe I'll give it a proper try this afternoon. Do you think it could help with data analysis? That's what I'll mostly be doing in my role.
100%. It's brilliant at spotting patterns in data, suggesting visualizations, that's charts and graphs, and even writing up the findings in plain English. You'll be amazed.
All right, you've sold me. Thanks for the tip.
Anytime. And hey, if you ever get stuck or have questions, just ask. We're all figuring this out together.
And scene. How did that feel, listeners? Did you catch some of those great phrases? On the fence, meaning not yet decided. Game changer, something that completely transforms a situation. You've sold me, meaning you've convinced me.
These are such useful, natural expressions that come up again and again in professional English conversations. Practice them, use them, make them your own.
All right, let's round up, meaning bring together all the key vocabulary from today's episode. Rebecca, do you want to kick us off?
With pleasure. Okay, listeners, see how many of these you remember from our conversation. First up, innovate, to create new, better solutions to problems. And innovation is the noun form, the result of that creative process.
Then we had machine learning, where AI systems learn from data rather than being programmed with every rule. And deep learning, a more advanced form using neural networks that mimic the human brain.
Automation, the use of technology to perform tasks with minimal human involvement. And structural unemployment, when technology makes entire categories of jobs obsolete.
Obsolete, one of my favorite words, meaning no longer useful because something better has come along. Think of fax machines.
Rest in peace, fax machines. And speaking of costs, we had carbon footprint, the total greenhouse gases produced by a person, product, or activity, and e-waste, electronic waste, old devices and hardware that get discarded and can harm the environment.
Data centers, the massive facilities that house the computers powering AI and the internet. And leaching, the slow release of harmful substances into the surrounding environment. Important word to know.
We also talked about renewable energy, energy from natural, replenishable, meaning endlessly refillable sources like sun, wind, and water, and breakthroughs, sudden, dramatic developments that overcome a major obstacle.
Then there was gene editing, modifying the genetic code of a living organism. And biotechnology, using biological processes to develop new technologies.
Transhumanism, the belief that technology should be used to transcend normal human limitations, and equitably, fairly, with justice for all.
And from our role play, on the fence, undecided. Game changer, something that transforms a situation completely. And you've sold me, meaning I'm convinced.
Fantastic list. And as always, don't try to memorize them all at once. Just listen again and notice how naturally they come up in conversation. That's how real language learning happens.
You know, Rebecca, we've journeyed, and I think that word feels right. We've journeyed through a lot today, from the definition of technology itself, all the way to editing the human genome. And I want to ask you the same question I asked at the end of last episode. If you had to distill all of this into one single message, what would it be?
I think mine would be this: technology is not destiny. Destiny meaning a fixed, unavoidable future. Technology doesn't decide what happens to us. We do. The question is never just what can technology do? The question is always what do we choose to do with it, and that choice belongs to all of us.
I love that. It's empowering and it's honest, and it connects so deeply to what we discussed about the environment last week. Whether we're talking about saving ecosystems or navigating, meaning carefully making your way through the rise of AI, the answer always comes back to human choices, human values, human responsibility.
And human connection. Because none of these challenges get solved by one person, one country, one technology. They require collaboration, working together across borders, languages, and cultures.
Which is, by the way, yet another reason why learning English matters so much. English is still the world's primary language of science, technology, international business, and diplomacy, the art of managing international relations. When you speak English, you get a seat at the table where these conversations happen.
Oh, I absolutely love that framing. Learning English isn't just a personal goal, it's a way of participating in the big conversations that shape the future. How cool is that?
Pretty cool. All right, listeners, we are so grateful you spent this time with us. I genuinely believe that if more people think carefully about technology the way we have today, with curiosity and with critical thinking meaning the ability to analyze and question, not just accept, then our future looks a lot brighter.
And hey, you're already doing it just by listening, so give yourself a little credit. You're not just learning English, you're becoming a more informed, thoughtful, globally minded person, and that is something to be genuinely proud of.
That's a wrap on today's episode of English with me. Rebecca, honestly, this might be my favorite episode we've done so far. I feel like we really got into it today.
Same. And our listeners made it so worth it by staying with us all the way to the end. Seriously, thank you, every single one of you.
If today's episode helped you learn something new, whether it was a word, a phrase, or just a new way of thinking about technology, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps our channel grow and lets us make more content like this.
And please leave us a comment. We love reading them. Here's today's question. Do you think AI is more of an opportunity or a threat? Tell us what you think. There's no wrong answer, just honest conversation.
And Rebecca, shall we tease next episode?
Oh, yes. Okay, listeners. Next time, we're going to talk about work, careers, and the future of jobs, building directly on what we discussed today. We'll be looking at real English for job interviews, workplace conversations, and talking about your career goals. You really do not want to miss it.
It is going to be so good. Make sure you're subscribed so you get notified the moment it drops.
Until then, take care of yourselves, keep practicing, and remember, every English word you learn is a door opening to a bigger world. Bye for now.
See you next time, everyone. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep looking forward. Bye.